Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Fallout. This is where I watch every single play of every single game of every single week, trying to find you, the fantasy football diamonds in the rough, and take your team all the way to a championship. So this episode is all about the Dolphins versus the Cowboys. I have watched 180 minutes of Dolphins. That is 180 minutes of my life that I'm never going to get back. But you know, I think the good news is I've kind of, I think, figured out where this team is. But let me start with the Dallas Cowboys. That's why a lot of you are probably watching this feedback video. The Dallas Cowboys have a lot of fans and they're doing well, so I'm sure they have even more fans, these fair weather fans. But I'll talk about Miami and kind of what you can expect going forward, especially if your teams are playing Miami or if your players are playing Miami moving forward. But for Dallas, let's say this. So I know Devin Smith is getting some run. He's getting in the game. He's a nice story. I don't think he had gotten a catch, since like 2016 or something like that. Great story. But the bottom line is this is Michael Gallup's position. Devin Smith is a backup player. I don't think he's supplanting Randall Cobb. I don't think he's supplanting Michael Gallup, who was the team's leading receiver, not in touchdowns, but in receiving yardage and all that, moving into the game, and certainly not supplanting Amari Cooper. As funny as it is to say, I feel like Dallas came into this game a little overconfident, and they still covered the spread, which I think was like 23 points. Dak Prescott in my opinion, didn't have a great game. He was 19 of 32. I'm looking at the yardage. 246 yards, 2 touchdowns. Could have been more. Credit Miami. Miami was playing a little bit tougher than you would expect them to play. Or even if you see the final score, you wouldn't expect me to say Miami was playing tough, but they actually were. They had a chance to take a little bit of control going into halftime. Kenyon Drake had a bad fumble. I'll talk about the Dolphins in a little bit. Dallas, they came out and they really weren't executing very well. But then you look at the final stat line, you see Ezekiel Elliott, 19 carries, 125 yards, 6.6 yards per carry. Tony Pollard, 13 carries, 103 yards and a touchdown over close to 7.9 yards per carry. This is a team that, this game really wasn't in doubt once we hit the second half. Let me just say, Fantasy Football Fallout, Jason Witten could have gotten in the end zone, very, very close to getting in the end zone for a third straight week. He didn't quite get there. I continue to love Jason Witten, especially in daily fantasy. Dak Prescott always looks for him, and he's open quite a bit. He's a Hall of Fame player. Let's be real. He's not a Hall of Fame broadcaster, but he's a Hall of Fame player. Wrapping things up for Dallas here, Randall Cobb, I thought he was going to have a big game. He didn't. Oh, well, you win some, you lose some. We certainly had more hits than misses this week. Thank you very much. Money. Devin Smith, don't pick him up. Don't pick him up. Just wait for Gallup to come back. He'll be just fine. Moving it over to the Miami side. So what is Miami? They're a team that has awful line play. That really is it. I mean, somebody was in Rosen's face all game. They couldn't get any rush. I mean, Dak Prescott, I think he was playing pinochle back there. He was playing like dominoes. He could have. It was insane. I've never seen somebody consistently get that long to pass in the pocket. I mean, it was incredible. He really wasn't even sliding around. He was just sitting like a statue. It was nuts. So Miami, they need better line play. They need better line play on the offensive side too. They need better blocking. They can't get anything going in the running game because there's only 3 guys in the face of the running back. There's also 3 guys in the face of the quarterback when they're throwing. And with all these draft picks that they have, the good thing is you really don't often miss on an offensive lineman. If you pick a stud offensive tackle and he sucks at offensive tackle, you can move him to guard. He's going to be probably a standout guard. So I think Miami will get this thing figured out sooner rather than later. They're a candidate next season to, I think, catapult forward in the win total. That's a 2020 thing. Josh Rosen, let me say this, man. He actually looked pretty good. If I was Miami, I wouldn't be playing him, though. I don't see the upside here. I think let him sit on the bench. Let him have some time. This offensive line, if he doesn't get him killed, it's not going to do anything to build his confidence. I just don't see any upside here. Let Fitzpatrick play. If you go 0-16 with Fitzpatrick, it's fine. You go 0-16 with Fitzpatrick. You get the number 1 pick in every round. kumbaya, you'll be fine because you'll get enough of those draft picks and hit on enough of those draft picks that they'll be fine. You go 0-16 with Josh Rosen, you're kind of screwed, and you're going to have to use one of those picks on quarterback because there's no way Josh Rosen is going to survive. His career is not going to survive, having a miserable experience his rookie season with the Cardinals and then having another miserable season with the Dolphins the year after that. I don't think they're doing him or the franchise any favors by putting him out there. But, you got to see what he can do, I guess. I just think it would be better to do it later in the season when this team, has figured out some of the blocking, the line issues that I was just talking about. Now, let me say this for Rosen. He looked pretty good, I thought, as good as you could look. Coaching-wise, I think the coaching staff's actually doing an okay job. They're just not executing. And Josh Rosen was throwing the ball. He had a lot of drops. I don't know how many balls have to hit a receiver in the face mask before one of them puts their hands up and catches the ball. At some point, you would think that they'll be able to pull the ball down. Nobody's doing anything for this team. I mentioned Kenyon Drake had a critical fumble at the end of the first half there. I think they were going to go in and take a lead at halftime. It didn't happen. Jalen Smith knocked the ball out, I think, right at the end of that first half, and Dallas was able to sit on the clock at that point. It's just nothing's going right for Miami. It's not going to continue to be that bad. Also consider how they opened up the schedule. I do a power rankings, which will come out on Tuesday. Check that out, by the way. You can just search for the Underdog Power Rankings probably. But they opened up with Baltimore, New England, and Dallas. Those three teams have been in my top 5 in the power rankings this season, including the 1 and 3 team. New England is going to be tied for 1 this week, and Dallas is the number 3 team this week. Kansas City is the other one. So, look, it's a tough opening. We all know what they did. They traded some key players away, Minka Fitzpatrick most recently. It's going to be a tough sledding for this team going forward, but somebody has to make a play. There are players in position to make plays. They have to make plays. Let's talk about some of the good. So Preston Williams, I like him quite a bit. And I actually like Devontae Parker, too. I think the receivers are good, but they both had way too many drops this week in particular. Preston Williams, 12 targets, only 4 catches, 68 yards. That could have been a huge day if he pulled down some of those catchable passes. Devontae Parker, 6 targets, 3 receptions, 56 yards. That could have been a big day as well. I mean, there's opportunity out here for this offense, more so for the passing offense, because they're behind so often than the running offense. And like I was saying before, if you have 2 or 3 people in the backfield when you get the ball, when the quarterback hands the ball off to you, Kenyon Drake, Kalen Ballage, it's going to be hard to get you positive yards. Kenyon Drake, 12 carries, 38 yards. Ballage, 8 carries, 17 yards. That's going to be the norm going forward until Miami can start pushing the ball downfield. This is similar to what I was saying about Arizona to start the season. Arizona is pushing the ball downfield now. I thought Josh Rosen put the ball where it needed to be caught. Miami's receivers didn't step up. Maybe they will. At the tight end position, you have Gesicki and O'Leary. Between the two of them, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 28 yards. This team is going to have to score, and to me, it's all about Rosen throwing to Preston Williams, Rosen throwing to Devontae Parker. Those 2 receivers are the key to making this team move forward and getting themselves out of the slump, as well as, the defensive and offensive line just doing a little bit better. So there you go, Miami. The prognosis isn't great, but they're not as bad as the point spread and the record. Well, let me say this. They are that bad, but it's not as hopeless as the record and the point spread would have you seem from what I'm seeing. I think there is room for some optimism. It's a rebuilding year. It's a heavy rebuild. I think, I said there's a difference between basically a rebuild and post-apocalyptic, The Walking Dead. That's where we're at right now with Miami. But I think that they can get better by the end of the year. They seem to be playing a lot better in the first half than the second half, and then the game gets away from people. You just need more effort, more conditioning, more pride. And that line play is key. Both sides of the ball. If your lines are bad on both sides of the ball, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to win any games. So, but there's room for optimism, Miami. It's not all doom. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not all dread. There's a light at the end of the tunnel here. The question for me is Rosen. I think he is the quarterback of the future. If Miami can just chill out and protect him a little bit, are they going to do that? I don't know. But we'll see going forward. Anyway, that takes us through this episode. Please check us out on another episode. Also, we're really trying to grow our channel. We could really use your support. We release videos every day. If you could subscribe, it would be great. We have to hit certain subscribes. We have to hit a certain amount of playlists before we can become official YouTube partners. Once we do that, we can really start ratcheting up the show selection, the offering, and get a lot more stuff on here. So we really want to grow. You can get in with us on the other underdog. You can get on the ground floor. It would be really awesome. But please, once again, subscribe. You can hit the red button on the bottom right. You can hit the logo in the top left. And also, if you could watch the playlists in the top right, that helps us out as well. Thanks, everyone. Catch you on another episode.